Hello, everyone. This is Yolanta again with our second session on effective planning for success. Today, we'll be focusing on scope and sequences and mapping your curriculum. Don't worry, you don't need to know much to be able to become more effective at planning and getting better results with your students. So we're not going to be talking about this. We'll be kind of talking much more of how do I know what my students need to know, do, and understand. So do you have a clear idea of what your students need to know, do, and understand next year? Especially in the blended learning future, do you have the big picture? And you're going to tell me, yeah, sure, it's all in my program. I don't need to figure it out. It's all given to me. Yes, of course. Thank God for our scope and sequences and our wonderful programs. So knowing, doing, and understanding is the basis, something that you need to be coming back and thinking about, not only as you plan, but pretty much in any class. In this class, what do I need my students to know, do, and understand? So it's not about talking about the weather or talking about Greek mythology or talking about natural disasters. That's the topic, and that's the medium for the use of the language, which is basically what you're focusing on in an English class. So your curriculum tells you what children need to know, do, and understand, and there are objectives and learning goals and hopefully can-do statements. Your curriculum tells you or tells everyone what kids need to be able to do and understand and know. Your scope and sequence tells you over time. A curriculum map is something that you will develop on your own. We're going to talk about that. And a lesson plan is given to you. It's how you will do it. And there are many kinds of scope and sequences and curriculum maps in any of the books. This is one for Unit 4. Here is a scope and sequence. It tells you for 9 units what the kids need to know. Here is one for 1 unit. So it's kind of a curriculum map for 1 unit. Here's another one, totally different. It's much simpler. And again, different programs have different ways of doing this. Here is one for grade 3. This is not an ESL, it's an ELA, English Language Arts, but it tells me for the whole year what are the key ideas for reading, what are the conventions for language, what language knowledge the kids need to know. And it's good to have something like that on 1 page for the whole year. It makes sure that you are focused. One of the interesting things, or one of the great supports or helps that we have in any of our English programs is that hopefully your English program is structured around the Common European Framework of Reference, which defines what is an A1 level, what is an B1 level, a C1 level, and it does so with great detail. And it doesn't really matter if you're going to be assessing with Cambridge or you're going to be assessing with TOEFL. It still matches these definitions, and these definitions are online, very easily obtained. In our Be and Live program, we looked at them very carefully. We looked at the CEFR, which is very, very complex and very detailed. And we looked at the overall reading comprehension, the reading for orientation or for correspondence. And we looked at a specific one and we integrated it into our scope and sequence on our learning management system, which I'm sure you also have. And so this is our scope and sequence for grade 4, and it tells a teacher exactly what the teacher needs to do or what the kids need to be able to do in week 1, in week 2, etc. Can use new vocabulary, can revise a text, can role play, whatever it is, but it's very detailed and extremely helpful. So here is term 1, lesson 1, term 1, lesson 2, term 1, lesson 3, And the project still remains the same. It's about legends, differences between myths and legends, identify and use adjectives, extreme adjectives, writing dialogues, etc. Very detailed, extremely helpful. So you're going to tell me, I have my scope and sequence. It tells me exactly what kids are supposed to be able to do. Why should I do anything else? Well, as an experienced teacher and based on everything we know that is happening in schools, yes, you do. You need to map it out for yourselves. You need to take that scope and sequence and adjust it for your students, or at least you need to have the big picture. And that's going to help you to be more efficient, i.e., have less work in the long run, more effective, get better results. And it makes it transparent. And also, it's easy to share with others. You can look up Heidi Hayes Jacobs on the internet. She's the guru of curriculum mapping. So in a curriculum map, it will define for you what kids need to be able to know, do, and understand in one term or in one whole year. And if you have already a good scope and sequence with action verbs, that will help you to make this better. So what I suggest is that you try to make your own term summary right now. You have 1 week to do it so that you begin to have your own curriculum map that tells you where you're going. Here is an example, 1 page, 1 term, 8 weeks work, 8 weeks worth of work on 1 page. So it tells me exactly what my kids need to be able to do in reading. And if you look across at all the different things, it says identify the characters, but then it says read for comprehension, and it talks about favorite parts. So you're focusing on one of these specific goals or can-do statements, but you're kind of looking at the other ones. If I look at the quick language, I'm seeing in red past simple, present perfect. Oh, okay, well, let's make sure that kids already will start using it, even though the focus will be in week 4. Or identify the main elements in a myth. It's kind of linked to the main characters. So if I have everything on 1 page, it helps me to see the big picture, to see where I'm going. And even though in 1 week I'm specifically focusing on one of those, then I also know that further down the line, I will be looking at other goals or other objectives that I can kind of integrate. So I suggest that you develop something similar to this. And next week, we'll be talking more about curriculum mapping and other elements that you could add on to this 1 page to make your planning more successful, more effective, and with better results. And one of the things that we always do is we learn by sharing. We learn from you and you learn from us. Here is an example of learning from a school. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know what else you need. So we're going to be continuing to talk about planning and effective and efficient planning. Thank you for listening and see you next week.